Routine can hide a lot of damage. My mornings always started the same way. Alarm at 5:55. Cold water on my face. Coffee brewed strong enough to taste bitter. I liked order. It made life manageable, predictable, safe. My name is Elliot Hayes. I worked in project coordination for a mid-sized distribution firm. Long hours, stable pay, nothing flashy. I wasn't chasing applause. I was chasing peace. The kind that comes from knowing your bills are paid and your home feels steady. My wife, Miranda Hayes, lived in a different rhythm entirely. She worked in brand partnerships, events, launches, dinners with people who always wore confidence like armor. She thrived in rooms where everyone was watching. I used to love that about her. She brought color into my structured world, made me feel chosen. Somewhere along the way, though, the color shifted. She stopped waking up with me, said she needed more sleep because her evenings were running late. Her phone never left her hand anymore, not even at home. Notifications silenced. Screen angled away. A casual laugh whenever I asked who she was texting. Clients, she'd say. You wouldn't care. At first, I believed her. I wanted to. Our life still looked intact from the outside. We hosted dinner parties, smiled for photos, planned trips that kept getting postponed. We kissed goodbye every morning, but it had become a habit instead of feeling. What bothered me wasn't one big thing. It was 100 small ones. The way she showered the moment she got home. The way she changed clothes before sitting down. The way her stories about work never lined up the same way twice. At night, lying beside her, I'd stare at the ceiling and wonder when my instincts had started feeling like accusations. I hated that feeling. Hated doubting her. Hated doubting myself even more. So I didn't confront her. Instead, I observed. I noticed how her calendar suddenly filled with team dinners that never included names. How she'd cancel plans with me, but dress up anyway. How she'd accuse me of being distant whenever I try to ask real questions. One evening, while we were folding laundry, I finally said it, carefully. You've been different lately. She didn't even look up. Don't start, she replied flatly. I'm not starting anything, I said. I just feel like. She laughed then. Not warmly. Not kindly. You're reading into nothing, she said. Honestly, Elliot, you sound jealous. And it's not a good look. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not anger. Clarity. Because I realized she wasn't confused. She wasn't unaware. She was confident I wouldn't do anything about it. And that's when I stopped trying to fix us and started paying attention to the truth she thought was invisible. Once doubt settles in, it changes how you see everything. I started noticing patterns I'd ignored before, not because they were hidden, but because I hadn't wanted to see them. Miranda's schedule no longer followed a rhythm. Some weeks she was home early and distracted. Others she vanished into a blur of client dinners and brand obligations. The explanations were smooth. Too smooth. Practiced. She'd come home smelling different. Not perfume, just unfamiliar. A crisp cologne that didn't belong to our house. When I asked, she'd shrug and say it was from crowded venues, hugs, handshakes. I nodded every time. I didn't want to be the man who interrogated his wife over scents and timing. But my body knew before my mind caught up. I slept lighter, ate less, paid closer attention. Our routines, once shared, became divided. I ate dinner alone most nights. Leftovers reheated while watching shows we used to save for weekends. When she was home, she scrolled endlessly, thumb moving faster than her eyes, smiling at messages she never shared. One Friday night, she dressed with extra care. Black dress, hair styled deliberately, jewelry she hadn't worn in years. Client event? I asked. She didn't hesitate. Yeah, big one. What kind? She paused just long enough to be noticeable. Why the questions? I was just asking. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You're doing it again. Doing what? Looking for problems where there aren't any, she said. You're jealous for no reason, Elliot. You should work on that. That was the first time she said it so casually. Like it was a character flaw I needed to fix. She left before I could respond. That night, I didn't follow her. I didn't check her phone. I didn't call. I just sat in a quiet house and asked myself a harder question. If I'm wrong, what am I afraid of? And if I'm right, why am I still waiting for permission to know the truth? The next morning, I made a decision, not fueled by rage, but by exhaustion. I wasn't going to accuse. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to snoop recklessly. I was going to confirm. I started small. Not with her, but with myself. I pulled phone records from our shared account. Not messages, just timestamps and frequency. Patterns jumped out immediately. One number appeared again and again. Late nights, early mornings, gaps that lined up perfectly with her events. I saved it. Didn't confront her. Then I watched. Miranda had a habit of narrating her day when she got home. Little details meant to sound natural. Names of coworkers, venues, funny mishaps. But once I started paying attention, the stories repeated themselves too closely, like lines memorized instead of lived. One evening, she mentioned a rooftop bar downtown. I nodded, then casually said, "I thought that place closed last year." She blinked. "They reopened." "They didn't," I replied calmly. "I work 2 blocks from there." Her smile tightened. "You're mistaken." She walked away before I could respond. That night, she didn't sleep beside me. Said she had a headache. Took her phone with her to the guest room. The distance between us felt deliberate now. I confided in Avery Bennett, an old friend who knew me well enough to hear what I wasn't saying. We met for lunch near my office. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't accuse Miranda outright. I just laid out the facts. Avery listened quietly, then said, "You're not crazy. You're just ahead of the moment." "What moment?" "The one where the truth shows itself whether you're ready or not." He helped me do one thing. Just one. That changed everything. We ran the number. The name attached to it was Derek Collins, senior brand consultant, married, 2 kids, very visible online presence, company events, tag photos, familiar smile. I felt cold, but not surprised. The pieces slid into place with unsettling ease. Same industry, same events, same late-night meetings. Even the way Miranda had started talking about her work. More dismissive of my questions, more defensive about her independence. I didn't confront Derek. I didn't message his wife. Not yet. Instead, I watched Miranda more closely than ever, and she noticed. "You've been quiet," she said one night while we ate dinner across from each other, the table feeling wider than it ever had. "Just tired," I replied. She studied my face, searching for something. Anger, suspicion, fear. She found none. That unsettled her. Over the next week, she became sharper, more impatient, accusatory. If I asked where she was going, I was controlling. If I didn't ask, I was distant. Either way, I was wrong. One evening, she snapped. "You don't trust me," she said. "I can feel it." I met her gaze. "Trust isn't a feeling. It's consistency." She scoffed. "So now you're lecturing me?" "No," I said calmly. "I'm listening." That threw her off. She changed tactics then. Warmth, affection, sudden closeness. She cooked dinner, suggested a weekend getaway, even reached for my hand in bed like she used to. It felt rehearsed, and that's when I understood something important. She wasn't just hiding something. She was managing me. The realization hurt, but it also freed me. Because once you see manipulation for what it is, it loses its power. A few days later, Miranda came home buzzing with excitement. "I'm thinking of hosting something here," she said. "A small gathering. Friends. Colleagues. Networking." I raised an eyebrow. "At the house." She smiled brightly. "Why not? You're always saying we should socialize more." I looked at her. Really looked at her. The confidence. The certainty that I was still in the dark. And I smiled back. "That sounds great," I said. "Invite whoever you want." Her eyes lit up. What she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly imagine, was that I had already prepared something of my own. Something that didn't need shouting. Something that didn't need accusations. Just a screen. A room full of people. And the truth, timed perfectly. Once Miranda started planning the gathering, the house changed. It became a stage. She talked about the guest list constantly. Who mattered, who didn't, who needed to see our perfect home. She rearranged furniture, ordered catering, and insisted on renting a larger display screen for presentations. She never questioned why I volunteered to handle the tech. That was my advantage. Every evening, after she fell asleep with her phone face down on the nightstand, I sat in the spare room with my laptop, assembling a quiet timeline. Not gossip, not assumptions, just dates, overlaps, and undeniable connections. Screenshots of public posts, calendar mismatches, location tags that contradicted her stories. All information anyone could see. if they knew where to look. The truth didn't scream. It stacked. I wasn't driven by revenge the way movies portray it. No rage. No fantasy of public humiliation. What pushed me forward was clarity. I needed the lies to stop controlling the narrative of my life. Avery checked in often. "You okay?" he'd ask. "I'm steady," I'd reply. And I was. There's a strange calm that comes when you stop arguing with reality. Miranda, meanwhile, grew bolder. She spent more time on her phone in plain sight, no longer bothering to hide her smiles. She'd accuse me of being distracted, of pulling away, even as she drifted further from me. The irony wasn't lost on me. One night, while we folded napkins for the event, she said casually, "Derek's coming." I kept my expression neutral. "From your firm?" "Yes," she said. "He's important. You'll like him." I almost laughed. Instead, I nodded. Of course. Her confidence in that moment was astonishing. She truly believed she had everything under control, that she'd rewritten our marriage into a story where I was merely a background character. The day of the gathering arrived with artificial cheer. The house buzzed with music, glasses clinking, conversations overlapping. People complimented Miranda on the decor, the food, her energy. She glowed under the attention, played host flawlessly, introduced me with a hand on my arm like a prop she'd dusted off for appearances. "This is my husband, Elliot," she'd say. "He works in operations." As if that summed me up. Then Derek arrived. He was taller than I expected. Confident, relaxed, wearing the kind of smile that assumes the room is already on his side. He shook my hand firmly, met my eyes without hesitation. "Great place you've got," he said. "You're lucky." "So I've been told," I replied evenly. Miranda hovered near him more than necessary. Their conversations were just a little too private. Their laughter just a little too familiar. No one else seemed to notice, but once you know. I waited. Let the room fill. Let the energy peak. Let everyone settle into comfort. Then I tapped the screen. Miranda froze mid-sentence when the music cut. "Hey," she said sharply, turning toward me. "What are you doing?" I smiled gently. "Just sharing something." The screen lit up, not with accusations, but with a simple timeline. Dates, events, public photos from different accounts, Miranda's and Derek's, posted hours apart but tagged at the same locations. Screenshots of team dinners that lined up with business trips. Nothing inappropriate, nothing explicit, just truth laid out in clean, quiet order. The room went still. At first, people leaned in, curious, then confused, then uncomfortable. Miranda's face drained of color. "Turn that off," she hissed, crossing the room. I raised a hand, not aggressively, calmly. "Let it finish." She laughed nervously. "This is ridiculous. You're proving my point, Elliot. This is jealousy. You're embarrassing yourself." I looked at her, really looked at her, and spoke clearly. "I didn't accuse you of anything," I said. "I just shared patterns. You're free to explain them." Derek shifted uncomfortably. His smile faltered. A woman near him, Lauren Collins, stared at the screen, then at him. "What is this?" she asked quietly. The question hung in the air. Miranda tried to speak, but her words tangled. "This isn't. He's twisting things. You're all reading into it." The screen moved on. Call frequency. Late night overlaps. Public posts deleted shortly after being shared. Lauren stepped back from Derek, her expression unreadable but firm. "Why are you calling her at midnight?" she asked. Derek opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Miranda. She glared at me then, real anger, not mockery. "You planned this," she said. "You set me up." I nodded once. "No, I gave you a chance to tell the truth. You chose not to." The room erupted in whispers. Some guests quietly left. Others stayed frozen, unsure whether to intervene or escape. Miranda's voice cracked. "You had no right." "I had every right," I replied calmly. "To stop being managed. To stop being dismissed." She turned to Derek, searching for support. He didn't meet her eyes. That's when the power shifted. Not through shouting. Not through insults. Through silence. And the sudden collapse of the story she'd built. Lauren walked out without another word. Derek followed a minute later, pale and shaken. Miranda stood in the center of the room, exposed, not by cruelty, but by her own certainty that I would never push back. The screen went dark. I looked around the room. "Thank you all for coming. I said quietly. I think that's enough for tonight. People dispersed quickly after that. When the house finally emptied, Miranda rounded on me. You ruined everything, she said. You humiliated me. I met her gaze steadily. You humiliated yourself when you decided I didn't deserve honesty. She shook her head, voice trembling, not with remorse, but with fury. This isn't over. I believed her, but for the first time in months, I wasn't afraid, because I hadn't lost control that night. I take it back. The house felt unfamiliar once everyone left. Not empty, quiet in a different way. The kind of silence that follows truth when there's nothing left to hide behind. Miranda stood near the kitchen counter, arms crossed tightly, as if holding herself together through sheer will. The confidence she wore all evening had cracked, and beneath it was someone scrambling to regain control. You planned this for weeks, she said, her voice low. You wanted to hurt me. I took off my jacket and set it on the chair, movements slow and deliberate. I wanted clarity, I replied. Hurting you wasn't the goal. Ending the lies was. She scoffed. You could have talked to me. I tried, I said calmly. Every time I did, you laughed. You called me jealous. You made me feel small for asking questions that mattered. For a moment, she looked away. Just a moment. Then her expression hardened again. You enjoyed that, she said, seeing everyone stare at me. I shook my head. No, I hated that it came to that. But I wasn't going to keep protecting a story that only benefited you. She paced the room, running a hand through her hair, searching for leverage. So what now? She asked. You think you win? The word one didn't sit right with me. This isn't about winning, I said. It's about choosing what happens next, with honesty. She laughed bitterly. You think you're so calm, so moral. I'm calm because I stopped lying to myself, I said, and I stopped letting you rewrite reality. That landed. She sat down slowly, exhaustion finally overtaking anger. The truth was out, and without secrecy, there was nothing left to fuel her confidence. I didn't plan for her to go this far, she said quietly. I believed her, but that didn't change anything. Intent doesn't erase impact, I replied. You didn't just drift away. You replaced me while pretending I was the problem. Tears welled in her eyes then, not the dramatic kind, but the kind that comes when consequences arrive. What do you want? She asked. I thought about that for a long moment. I wanted the version of her I married. The woman who laughed without calculation, who told the truth even when it was uncomfortable. But that version no longer existed. Or maybe she did. But she wasn't choosing to be her anymore. I want peace, I said, and honesty, whether that's together or apart. She nodded slowly, understanding the weight of that answer. The following weeks were difficult, but strangely clean. No more guessing. No more checking phones. No more walking on emotional glass. We spoke openly, sometimes painfully, but without pretense. Dare tried to reach out once. I didn't respond. His chapter in my life was closed the moment he walked out that door. Lauren reached out too. Not to me, but to Miranda. That conversation changed things. It stripped away the last layer of denial. Miranda couldn't hide behind excitement or attention anymore. She had to face the damage left behind. Eventually, we made a decision. Separate paths. Not explosive. Not cruel. Just honest. I moved into a smaller place closer to work. The routines returned. But this time, they belonged to me. Morning coffee tasted better. Sleep came easier. The constant tension I'd lived with for months dissolved into something quieter and stronger. Self-respect. Miranda tried, in her own way, to rebuild. I wished her well, but from a distance. Some bridges don't need to be burned. They just don't need to be crossed again. People asked how I felt afterward. Relieved. Clear. Free. The revenge wasn't the screen or the gathering or the silence that followed. The revenge was refusing to stay small. Refusing to be managed. Refusing to doubt my own instincts ever again. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I didn't destroy anyone. I simply let the truth stand where lies used to live. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough.